Joining me now to discuss is Senior Research Fellow for China and National Security Policy at the Heritage Foundation and former Deputy National Security Advisor to former Vice President Dick Cheney, Steve Yates. Steve, thank you very much for being here today. We definitely appreciate it because, look, we've seen both sides of this in the past week make clear that the original deal proposed was just not enough to move forward. So what do you expect Ukrainian officials to be pushing for today, and what do you think the U.S. is willing to give? What are we going to see?
Well, I think we're going through a very long slog. I thought this was going to be this way from the get-go. Vladimir Putin is a tough person to try to negotiate with. Ultimately, if you're trying to end a conflict that they see as net in their favor, rightly or wrongly, if they see it net in their favor, then it's quite difficult. So you have to come up with the right mixture of inducements and penalties that will get them to stop the killing and hold the peace. For the Ukrainian side, you can understand that they feel a bit vulnerable. Of course, they don't want something that allows for reinvasion, and they'll be quite concerned about reconstruction. Taking the Secretary of State at his word, it sounds like this meeting today is really about trying to map out what are some of those building blocks. And that, I think, is where the 28-point plan that is somewhat reminiscent of the multi-part plan for Gaza and the Middle East is trying to get at what that future looks like so that Ukraine can have greater confidence in this deal-making process.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Rubio, because I want to play you something that Secretary Rubio just said at the very start of today's talks. Let's listen together.
Ukraine has tremendous economic potential. Ukraine has tremendous opportunity for true prosperity. Obviously, you can't do that in the middle of a war like this, but ending the war alone won't achieve that. So this is not just about peace deals. It's about creating a pathway forward that leaves Ukraine sovereign, independent, and prosperous.
Okay, so what does this signal to you about the direction of the deal? What do you hear in that soundbite?
Well, what I hear is just trying to reassure them that there's going to be American interest and investment, that America will work together with European allies to try to push some of the European neighbors, perhaps, to do more to help invest. Remember, part of the problem that got us into this conflict were a lot of major European nations that still had significant economic dependency on Russia, and that got in the way of real support for Ukraine. There was verbal support, but then economic dependence. And so this alternative path to peace and prosperity is a theme that comes out of Abraham Accords style negotiations. That's why you have Abraham Accords style negotiators in this conversation today. What I hear is them trying to map out confidence in what that alternative future is that would not be overly dependent on Russia from Europe. America would participate, but we're going to make sure that our allies are taking care of their neighbors first, and America plays a supporting and vital role.
Yeah, and then you've got overnight Russia launching these deadly strikes on the city of Kyiv. This is right as Ukrainian officials are in the U.S. for these talks, of course. So, you know, when we take a look at that aggression, is Putin really willing to stop aggressing for the right deal, or is this a warning as you see it?
Yeah, that's ultimately where the rub is in all of this. And it's not really the fault of anyone on the U.S., European, Ukrainian side. We are dependent on whether Vladimir Putin is going to make a strategic choice that would allow for the cessation of hostilities that has not happened through the entirety of the Biden administration or through this first partial year of the Trump administration. I think that the president is putting the best pieces in play to try to get to that point, but there's no evidence yet that Putin has made that choice. And so that's why I think these meetings are just the trial by error of changing up this mixture of inducements and penalties until you get to something that can possibly work.
All right. Well, we really appreciate your perspective. Steve Yates, Senior Research Fellow for China and National Security Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Steve, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.